So come and have a lie down on your backs. Oh, lie on your back. That's okay. It was. So I shouldn't be too paranoid.
If I start legally.
No. Okay, so have a lie down on your back, the only one that you've got. And so the lesson that I'm going to be teaching is a lesson that comes directly after the one I taught you on Monday, the primary image. So it's still got this idea of bringing you back into your skeleton. So a lot of the things that we've been doing with the bell, have also that neurological component. So now we're going to come back to the bones. So lie on your back with your legs long and your arms down by your side. And feel how your back is lying on the floor. And when you take your attention to your back, do you notice, do you get a general impression of how you're lying? Or do you, in your mind, return to that primary image of the 5 cardinal lines of your body? So there's the line of the spine, going from your sacrum up to the top of your head. The 2 lines for your legs and 2 lines for your arms. And as you lie there now, pay attention to the line of your spine and notice the length of your spine and how much of that line is clear to you. Are there certain parts that aren't as clear as you'd like them to be? And then you can think in a similar way of the 2 legs and the direction that the legs are resting in. And the length of the line of the legs, if it's equal in your image on the left leg and the right leg, or if there's a difference. And you can also sense in more detail the 2 lines for your arms. And notice the quality of your attention and what you observe, what's in the foreground, and how that's part of your image. And then in the lesson on Monday, we spent a lot of time on these lines, but we didn't really think of the head in detail. So now we're going to think particularly of your face. And if you think in daily life, how do you know your face? Is it through a mirror? Or is it through that kinesthetic sense? And I think the face is such a big part of us. And I know I really like my bathroom mirror. Because in my bathroom, we've got this dimmer switch, and often it's turned down to low. So when I look into the mirror, I can see a younger me, which is great and good for the ego. And it's also good in terms financially because it saves me spending a fortune on makeup. So you could just choose, what mirrors that you look in. But now feel your face and what image comes to mind when you start paying your attention to your face. So where is the line of your nose? How does the nose relate to the position of your eyes? And then notice the shape of your mouth and the size of your mouth. And where is the mouth in relationship to the eyes? What's the distance of your mouth, or from the upper lip to the eyes? And then sense in more detail your upper lip and how that rests on, it might be resting on the lip below, or it might not. And what's the distance of from your lower lip to your chin? And then sense the distance from your chin to your nose. And then if you think of your chin, what sort of shape does it make? You know, what sort of, is it angular? I was thinking on the train this morning about the lesson, and I was thinking of, you know, the jawline and watching Jaws on the train. And I don't know if any of you watch cartoons on TV, but my husband's a fan of a show called American Dad. In American Dad, the main character is Stan, and Stan's a CIA agent, and he's got this wonderful square jaw. So as you lie there, you know, what shape is your jaw, and what's the distance from, say, the middle of your chin to the top of your jaw, say, on the right side? And then is the line from your chin to the top of the jaw on your left side, is that a similar distance? And then what's the distance from your eye to your ear? Say the right eye to the right ear. And the left eye to the left ear. And now notice your forehead, or pay attention to your forehead and what shapes that makes, and what's the width of your forehead. So when I'm saying width, I'm thinking, you know, from side to side, from left to right. And then you can think in a sense of the depth of your forehead, or from, you know, your hairline to your eyebrows. How large is that? And then return to noticing your nose and the length of your nose. And then think, you know, also with your nose, how far does it protrude up into the air? So, you know, we all have different shapes noses. It might be more of a ski jump, or it might be more curved downward. But how far does your nose protrude into the air? And then what is the distance of the nose in relationship to your shoulders? And to the floor. And then with the same quality of attention that you've been using to make these fine discriminations of your face, take your attention all the way down to your sacrum. And what, you know, is that a clear image for you? So, you know, before I was saying how we often look at our faces in the mirror, I think it's pretty safe to say that most of us don't look at our sacrums in the mirror. So, given that, you know, it's a part of our body that we don't have a visual picture of. So how is the sacrum to you? Have you got a sense of where it is in your back, how it connects to the pelvis? And then draw the line from the sacrum, the line of your spine, all the way up your body to the top of your head. And can you sense, this line, what the length of the line is, and what areas of the line are very clear to you? And within that line, sense what we refer to as the neck. So you can think of the base of your neck or the junction of where the back starts to become the neck. And can you sense, that big vertebra at the base of the neck? And renew that image of the 5 lines, the 2 lines of your arms and where they come from the edges of your shoulders, and the 2 lines of the legs and how they originate from your pelvis and what direction they take. And then please roll over and come up to sitting. And you're going to be sitting with your knees bent, so you can have your knees bent and they can be opened a little bit to the side, and your arms are going to be out in front of you. So that the forearms and upper arms are parallel to the floor, and there can be a slight bend in the elbows. And in this position, renew the image of those lines. So here, can you focus again on the line of your spine, going from your sacrum up to the top of your head. And then start to bend your head. So start just to make a small movement of your head, bending the head. So you can bend the head a little bit forward. And as you bend your head, notice what happens in that line of your spine and your back. So how can you use this movement of bending the head to give you more information about the line of the spine? Can you feel more clearly as you bend the head what happens in the part of the line around your neck and that junction at the base of the neck where it comes into the torso? And it might be elsewhere along the line that bending of the head in a sense resonates. What does it highlight about the line of your spine? And then pause and bring your arms down. We're going to do some variations in sitting. So I don't think I need to tell you now to rest if you find that position comfortable and then come back to the movement, because I'm assuming that you all know how to take care of yourselves. So come back into that same position of the knees bent and the arms out in front of you. And this time you have the elbows just slightly bent comfortably, and just move the arms a little bit forward and back, whatever that means to you. And as you move the arms forward and back, does that also give you a greater sense of the direction that the 2 arms are in and how the arms connect into your shoulders? And it might be that movement of the arms also has an effect on your back or the line of your back, depending on how you're doing it. And then rest the arms and stay sitting. And as you sit, take the opportunity again just to refresh that image of your lines. And then return to having the arms out in front of you. And this time you're just going to move your whole body a little bit forward and back. So sort of just rocking gently your body a little bit forward and a little bit back. And again, thinking of this image, what does this movement emphasize? Do you feel a change in the line of your spine? Or it might be that you can somehow have a better sense of the two legs and where they connect into your pelvis. And then leave it alone and take a rest on your backs. And where does your attention go as you're resting? Does it return to the 5 lines? And as you lie there, you might notice how those movements have affected the line of your spine, the line of your 2 arms, and the line of your 2 legs. And then you can draw in those points that we explored on Monday. So the 2 points that depict the edge of your shoulders and the 2 points that depict your hip joints. And you could feel, the width from across your shoulders from point to point and the width of your pelvis from one hip joint to the other. And then keeping this image with you, return to coming to sitting in that same configuration. And as you sit here now, renew particularly the image of the lines of your legs and where the legs originate from your pelvis, from those hip joints behind you. So if you remember, we talked about the hip joints from behind and how they don't come from the floor, but they come from higher up in your pelvis. So keeping that in mind, now lift your right leg into the floor and just do a few exploratory movements of moving the leg a little bit up and down. So the right leg lifts and then moves down. And you can keep the leg in the air. And again, the idea of these movements is to enhance your sense of your leg and your hip. So it doesn't need to be a big movement. It's just a movement where you can get a clearer idea of that line of the leg and where it originates from. And after you've done the up and down movement a few times, you can pause. But it's only a short pause. It's really a pause just so you can change your focus and then go back to moving the right leg a little bit left and right. So the right leg comes into the air and you move the leg right and left, and again feeling how that line of the leg, how does it move through space and how does it connect into the hip. And then rest in sitting. So I've got a few more explorations of the leg in sitting, and then you get to lie on your back. So return to that sitting position, and now just play with the idea of how that right leg can come into the air and how you can turn the leg a little bit left and right, whatever that means for you. So the leg comes into the air, and if you're turning the leg inward, the toes would turn in. If you're turning it outward, the foot would turn out. And just, again, what happens in the hip? Can you feel it from behind as you do the movement? And how does that movement change the line of your spine? Like that? Hopefully not. Okay. And then rest on your backs. And now that you've done those variations with the right leg, how does the line of the right leg compare to the line of your left leg? Has that line got a different direction? Is there any more clarity on how the line connects through the hip joint into the pelvis? And it might be that the line of this leg is feeling longer or shorter now. And so as you lie there, just think through those different movements that you did with your leg in sitting, because we're now going to explore them with the left leg. So slowly roll over onto your side and come up to sitting. You know how you're sitting, the arms are in front of you, your knees are bent. And now start to explore the movement of bringing the left leg into the air and moving it up and down. And feeling how is it on this leg? How does this line do the movement? What happens at the back of your pelvis in the hip? And you can do a few movements up and down, and then you can explore the movement of going left and right. But as you change the direction, notice if you can sense something different in the direction of the line of the leg and how it might affect the line of the spine and the hip. And then you can pause or you can continue, but slowly come to having the left leg into the air and doing that rotation movement of just turning the leg a little to the left and a little bit to the right. And how does that movement affect the line of your spine? Does it change the shape or the direction of your spine? Does it affect the two lines of your arms? And then leave it and take a rest on your backs. Now, in the lesson, there's a long side conversation about this movement of turning of the legs and how it relates to a Jewish ritual. And as we've been talking about language and words, I'll tell you the name of this ritual, because one thing I'm not that good at is sometimes saying names. So the way that I read it is that it's called Havadalah. So if anyone, feel free to correct me. But the idea of this ritual is that it delineates between the Sabbath or the end of a Jewish holiday to the workday. And it's about this, apparently it's done, a blessing that's done with a candlelight, and it's how the candlelight reflects on the hands. But he uses this image with that movement of turning of the legs. And as you're thinking of images, refresh that image of the line going from your sacrum all the way up to the top of your head. And is it becoming a fuller or clearer line would be a better way of saying it. So, you know, we also talked about the idea of strings. So if you're thinking of a string for the line of your spine, now how continuous is that piece of string? And then notice the line of your two legs. And again, you could think of them as pieces of string originating from the pelvis, and you could think of the line of the string of the right leg and the line of the left. And the two lines of the arms. And keeping that image in your foreground of your attention, stand both of your feet onto the floor. And lift your arms into the air. And notice how the arms, the line of the arms connects to your shoulders and that point for the shoulder. And then lift the right leg slowly into the air and do the movement so that you can retain the image of the 5 lines in your mind. And if you're doing a larger movement, notice if you can still have that image in your mind, or if at some point you lose part of that image. And can you bring that quality of attention to this movement as you attended earlier on in the lesson to your face, which was, was quite a lot of detail and specificity. Can you do the movement and think of the lines, those 5 cardinal lines of the body as you do this movement? And then leave it, bring your arms down and your legs long. Notice the line of the leg that you've been moving. And again, has that movement affected your overall image? And then bring both feet to standing once more and have your arms up towards the ceiling as in the previous movement. And now lift your left leg. And sense, here again, how far can you lift the left leg and retain that primary image? So if you think you've got the line of the leg that's moving and originating from the hip, You can feel the line of your spine, of the two arms and the other leg. And then leave it, bring your arms down by your side and allow your legs to slide long. And as you rest, refresh the image of the 5 lines. And see the lines, as pieces of string. So you've got like a string, there's the line of your spine from your sacrum up to the top of your head. And then you could think of the 2 legs and the lines of the legs as pieces of string. And the 2 arms as pieces of string. And you could also connect the edges of the 2 shoulder joints with a piece of string. And the points that replicate your hip joints with a piece of string. So, one thing, there's lots of things that we can do in these lessons and how we can direct attention. And I always remember, one of our teachers at Susan's spoken about Alan Christel, and he said you can always put a joke into a lesson. So, and jokes, as we know, there's a way of telling the joke. So if it's a number 21 or if it's a number 33, it's all in the telling. And when I was preparing this, I was thinking, now what joke can I tell you? And I came up with this one. So you'll have to bear with me because I'm that sort of joke teller that possibly can start laughing before the end of the joke. And with my husband, we have a bit of a number thing happening. Like I can think of the joke, but he normally tells it. So last night I was talking to him on the phone saying, how can I tell this joke? So this is what I've come up with. And if you don't laugh, I won't be too distressed. So we're going to England. And there's a piece of string, and the string's walking along the road, and he's thinking, oh, there's a pub. Oh, I'd like to have a pint of beer. So the piece of string walks into the pub, and he says, walks up happily straight up to the bar and says to the barman, can I have a pint of your finest lager? And the barman is a surly Brit. And he walks up and says, blimey, I don't serve the likes of you. Get out of my pub. So the piece of string, you're thinking, oh, who would have thought in these days that they wouldn't serve a piece of string? Is that stringers? What's going on? And he goes out quite annoyed and flustered. And then he creates in his emotional state all of these loops around himself, and he thinks of his hair and puts his hand in his hair and moves it around, making it in all different directions. And then he thinks, stuff it, I'm going to have my beer. So off he goes back into the pub, and he walks up to the same barman and goes, give me a pint of your finest lager. And the barman says to him, aren't you that type that was in here before? And the piece of string goes, I'm afraid not. So pretty corny, pretty corny. But I used to have this wonderful client, and at the beginning of each of our sessions, he'd tell me those sorts of jokes. Okay. So now please roll onto your right side. And you're going to have your knees bent. And find a way to make your head comfortable. So if you want to find a support for your head, do that, or you can rest your head on the arm. And as you lie on your side, renew this image of the line of your spine, of the line of your legs and the line of your arms. And place your left arm along the length of your body. And now imagine that there's something in front of you that you're wanting to move your chin toward. So you're just going to do a small movement of your chin, as if it might be that you want to sip from a cup of coffee, or it might be that you have something that you really like in front of you that you're wanting to, I'm thinking of a maybe little creature or a toy or whatever, and that you're wanting to sort of kiss. So sort of that movement where the chin's moving forward. And as you move your chin forward, notice what that does to the line of your neck and that area from the neck into the torso. So just like a little bit of a pecking movement, just sort of just bringing the chin a bit forward and back. And does that help, clarify again that line of your spine? And now change the direction of the chin so that you bring your chin closer to your throat. So it's quite a different movement. And feel here, what happens again to that line of your spine and that area where the neck connects into your torso. So does that make it easier for you to sense that large vertebra at the base of your neck? And then let the head rest. And sense the length from your sacrum up towards your head. And in this position, sense the width of your shoulders. And now take the left shoulder with the head to the left. So where is the left? So you might have to think in relation to the room where the left is. So as you lie there, extend your attention to the room and think, where is left in the room? So it's not towards your left hip, it's toward the left part of the room. So most of you have found, that is another way of saying turn the head with the shoulders a little bit behind you. So if you think of left, and notice the relationship of the head with the shoulder. And where do you feel that movement in your back? So the head and the shoulder are moving together toward the left. And then leave it, and just, if you're comfortable, stay lying on your side. And notice the line of your legs as you lie on your side. You know, where do you feel the line of the legs connecting to in your pelvis, and the direction of the legs, the direction of your arms and spine. And now turn the head to the left and the shoulder toward the right, which means that the head and the shoulder move toward each other and then they move apart. And sense how the relationship of the head with the shoulders, and then find or pause with your head and shoulder when they're towards each other, to whatever level that is for you. And then in that position, you're going to keep them in that configuration, and as a unit, you're going to move both toward the left. So your head is looking at your shoulder and the shoulder is towards the head, and then together they move toward the left and back to the middle. And where do you feel that movement along the line of your spine? Luckily not full. And then leave it alone and roll onto your backs and take a rest, lying on your backs with all your lines long, the lines of your arms and the lines of your legs. And again, tune in and feel and sense your 5 lines. And notice how those movements have influenced the line of your spine and the line of your arms, and possibly the 2 lines of your legs. And then you can also renew in your image the line between the 2 points of the shoulders and the 2 points of your hips. And notice the directions that the line of your legs and the line of your arms take. And then roll over onto your left side. And as you refresh those lines in your image on this side, has this position somehow give you different information on all of those lines? And bring the right arm just to rest over the length of your body, and start to explore the movement of the head and shoulder moving towards each other, as if you're wanting to look at the shoulder and the shoulder's coming forward to help you with that. So the head and the shoulder are moving towards and then away from each other. And again, it's the sort of movement that you might be doing where you're thinking, oh, what's at the back of my shoulder? So there's different ways of doing it. It might just be that you're rolling the head and looking at the shoulder. Might be that you're lifting the head to look at the shoulder. So explore maybe the idea of them coming together more with a rolling action, so that you're turning the head to look at the shoulder as the head turns to look at it. And then pause with the head and the shoulder towards each other. And again, as a unit, take both of them toward the right. And feel, as you do that again, what happens in the line of your back. And notice the relationship between your nose and your shoulder. So you know, what's the distance in this configuration of the nose to the shoulder? And then just rest on your side. And now turn the right shoulder and the head to the right. But then you're just allowing them, they're still moving together, but you haven't brought them together. So the distance between the nose and the shoulder will be greater, and you're just feeling how you can turn both toward the right and then back to the middle. And how does this movement, again, how is it different in what you experience in the line of your spine? And then leave it and take your lines and roll onto your back. And now, having done similar movements to both sides, how are the lines of your two arms? What direction are they taking? Are they connecting more clearly in your image into those points that depict the shoulders or the edge of the shoulders? And what's the line of your spine and the line of the two legs? And then notice the line of your two legs and where you feel that line is originating from the hip, and then how it goes down the leg to your foot. And then start to do a movement of just bending the right foot towards your lower leg. So just bending the foot towards the lower leg. And as you do that, you're sensing how the line of the leg is affected and how the knee may bend. So your right foot's moving toward your leg, and at some point in the movement, the right knee will bend. But you're going to bend the right knee with the foot towards the lower leg. So see how you can bend the right knee and have the right foot. If we're thinking of the joint of the week earlier and the ankle, so that, and using an anatomical term, the foot's going to be in dorsiflexion as the right knee bends, and it's going to stay in that position as the right knee lengthens. And can you do that movement and attend to all of your primary image? And what changes on the floor as your right foot bends towards the lower leg and the knee bends. And then gradually, to whatever degree you like, expand upon that movement. So, but I guess the proviso is that you can always retain that image of your 5 lines. And then leave it and do the same thing with your other leg. So starting to bend the foot towards you. And as the foot is towards you, the knee bends. And then it straightens with the foot towards you. How do you do the movement so you can sense all the changes that occur in the lines as you lie on the floor? And then leave it and rest with your 2 legs long. And as you're resting, renew those 5 lines, the lines of your spine going from your head. It can go in both ways. You can think of it going from the top of your head all the way down to your sacrum and then back up. And the 2 lines of your legs connecting to the hip and the 2 lines of the arms. And now bend both of your knees and bring your feet to the floor. And bring your right leg into the air. So your right leg's into the air, and you're going to have your foot bending towards the lower leg. And in that position, just start playing with the idea of how the foot can always be bent up towards the lower leg, but the knee can bend and straighten, but the foot stays in that position. So as the knee straightens, it's like you're pushing with the heel. And it doesn't, it can explore all the different directions that the leg can straighten in. It can straighten up towards the ceiling, parallel to the floor. It could straighten out to the left or toward the right. But feel how each movement, that the foot is in that bent position, and how you can still think of that primary image. And how you can feel where the leg comes out of the hip. And then leave it. And just pause in that position. And then do the same thing with your left leg and foot. So the left foot, the foot's bent up towards or in the direction of the lower leg. And you're just exploring different ways that you can bend the knee and straighten the knee, but with the foot always bent. So the relationship, it's like there's a string from your toe that's pulling the foot towards the lower leg as you lengthen and straighten it, whilst keeping that image of the line of your two legs, your spine and arms in your attention. And then let it go and take a rest, lying with your legs long and your arms down by your side. And go back to your lines, to your 5 cardinal lines, the 2 of the legs feeling. Now feel now how they connect into your hips, having done those leg movements, the direction of the legs and the directions of the arms and how they connect into the shoulders, and the length and clarity of the line of your spine. And then keeping that with you, roll over and come up to sitting. And you're going to return to sitting with your knees bent and slightly apart and your arms out in front of you, parallel to the floor and to your legs. And then in that position, start moving your body a little bit forward and back, which is a movement that we did earlier in the lesson, and just feel how that is now. How does it affect those lines of your body? And is it any clearer to you now what happens in the hips, in the spine? And then pause. And then come back into that same position and bring the right leg into the air. And in your own way, just explore all those movements of the leg. So we took the leg, up and down, left and right, and you turned the leg in and out. And as you do that, just sense the clarity of both the line of the leg and the other lines, and where the leg comes out from your hip from behind. And when you've done that, you can put the leg down and then explore the other leg. And how does this movement now affect those lines of your primary image? And then leave it and just slowly, in your own time, come up to standing. And then as you stand now, once again, just sense those lines, that cardinal, the 5 cardinal lines of your body, the length of your spine, the length of your legs and arms. And then take them for a walk. And as you're walking, just sense those lines. And you might also be sensing your face and your stomach and thinking, oh, it's time for lunch. So then we'll go to lunch and we'll come back 1:45. Ah. Okay. Here.
Just want to thank those of you who held off your payments until the new financial year.